Welcome to Outta Class, for all those lessons you didn't learn in school. Your overall health, fitness and well-being starts with the right mindset and having those meaningful conversations. This is your host, Grant Roberts. Let's get into it.
I'll teach you a lesson now.
Welcome back to the Outta Class Podcast. We're going to get straight into this episode. Hopefully the audio is better than last week. I think I've figured out my mic a little bit more, but we'll only get better and better. This week's episode, I'm going to be quite blunt, but hopefully with the aim of giving you maybe a much needed reality check, or just simply maybe telling you what you need to hear. I like to think of myself as somebody who is quite empathetic, quite compassionate, which is why I work in the industries that I do in the health and fitness industry to help people. But I also know that a lot of the time people employ me, literally pay me to tell them not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear also. So I'm hoping with this episode that I can do just that for people that might not be my clients. It might be a stranger that hopefully hears something I say that gives them that mental kickstart that they need, or that little bit of inspiration, or talking to that maybe their friends won't have the courage to tell them at times, or their loved ones. It can be quite a confronting conversation. So 7 harsh truths to why you keep failing your fitness goals. This week's episode. Number 1, consistency versus intensity. So what is the difference between this? I can give some very clear examples of the differences. Consistency is more of a long-term outlook, and it is reflected in results time and time again, but not just quick results that come dramatically and then go away very quickly. Consistency is a reflection of longevity and doing something long-term over and over again and continuing to reap the benefits of those actions. Intensity, on the other hand, is more of a short-term gratification like action. So intensity would be something like having a short-term goal where you go all in on it, you do everything absolutely perfect, you're on point with your nutrition, you're tracking your calories, staying on point with them, you're not missing a workout for 6 to 8 weeks, for example, and then once you reach that goal, you just fall straight off the bandwagon, you blow back out, you lose your routine, and you end up back at square one again, whether it was a weight loss goal or a muscle building goal or a marathon, for example. Intensity is so much less effective than consistency, and you can see it with people. When people ask what the secret is to maintaining a great physique or continuing to improve, consistency is the only secret sauce when it comes to maintaining, sustaining, and then improving your goals. So you have to think long term. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in one of the other points, but being consistent is the best, the strongest, the most important factor when it comes to not just reaching your goals, but sticking to them and continuing to improve and evolve and learn over and over again. That is the only difference. Another good example of this when it comes to intensity is fad diets. People will jump on the bandwagon of the new popular diet that the celebrities are taking, or they'll do something to an extreme point that realistically isn't sustainable long term. Realistically, tell yourself, can you give up carbs forever, for example? Can you give up something you absolutely love and enjoy and look forward to, like donuts for me, or chocolate. Can you deprive yourself of it forever, or is it something that you find so difficult to the point that it makes you miserable, that you almost obsess over the way you think about it? And pretty much the reality is you're going to fold eventually and give in and end up having a binge on foods that you have been depriving yourself of. That is another example of intensity. Most fad diets or pyramid schemes when it comes to nutrition, like isogenics, like New You, Discover You, all these types of fad diets teach you to, well, they don't teach you anything, to be honest, when it comes to nutrition. They pretty much get you to a point of vulnerability, and by the time you realize that you can't sustain something and you've wasted hundreds of dollars of your money, of your time, you realize you've made a mistake. When it starts to get so difficult that you didn't achieve the body that you wanted, you can't sustain the current lifestyle that you had or the intensity that you have, that's a good example of how fad diets work and how extreme exercise regimes, unrealistic exercise routines are used. So consistency is your friend there. Always consistency over intensity. You can have the best program, the perfect nutrition plan, all these sorts of things, but if you can't consistently do it long term, then you are inevitably going to fail. I've been consistent now, just quickly, for nearly 20 years, I would say, with my nutrition and my training. And I'm not saying perfection. There's a big difference between consistency, between discipline, and perfection. I'm nowhere near perfect. Even today, as I sit here, I'm nowhere near perfect, but I certainly am consistent, and that is why I continue to achieve and learn and thrive and improve. Not just on my health and fitness journey, but what I've applied and learnt from the fitness industry, from nutrition, from my studies, from my journey in health, I have applied to other facets of my life with consistency, like this podcast. I'm going to be as consistent as possible with it for as long as possible and look at it long term. Number 2, you're either under or over consuming calories. This is a huge factor when it comes to whether you are going to succeed or fail on your fitness journey. Now, I'm actually going to open up a tab. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I like to have facts behind the subjects that I talk about. When it comes to your nutrition, a lot of studies have been done on this about, particularly when they do nutrition studies with people and they're trying to get data and percentages on people's eating habits, and they make them do a 24-hour recall of their nutritional intake. So I'm going to put this in actually, 24-hour recall of diet habits. And with this, they found that the stats are pretty confronting when it comes to people being able to be honest with the amounts they've eaten, the types of foods they've eaten. We tend to have a very large bias when it comes to self-reporting, and especially if we know we have to report to a nutritionist or a dietitian like myself, it is very easy to try and perceive ourselves as the best way possible, doing everything right, or unintentionally or unconsciously forgetting those extra little snacks we had throughout the day, or that piece of chocolate, or not tracking the extra sauce we had with our fries. These types of things all add up when it comes to our overall calorie intake, and percentages show that we are pretty terrible at self-reporting and being honest with our calorie intake. And this works both ways, whether we are over-consuming or under-consuming calories. I wish I could get this up while I'm talking because I don't want to have a big pause while I'm on the podcast. but I'm going to try and bring it up as I talk. So another good example of this would be, as far as underconsumption goes, it is very easy to overestimate the amount of protein we get every day. If you've actually tracked your protein, or you're new to tracking your protein intake throughout the day, you will usually get a bit of a scare with how difficult it can be at the start to prioritize your protein and hit your daily protein needs. If you haven't done it before, give it a go. I would say start with aiming for, I'm going to go very conservative, and I would say even aim for 1 gram per kilogram of your body weight if you haven't before, and see if you can even hit that on your day-to-day eating habits that you do now. See if in your intake, for example, if you are 75 kilograms, see if you can hit 75 grams of protein throughout a day. And you might be very surprised that you probably aren't even hitting that if you're not tracking, or you don't really understand protein sources, protein food sources, or macronutrients. So have a look at that. All right, so I'm going to quickly try and bring this up. Percentage of inaccuracies, I think. So let's see what it says. So, accuracy of 24-hour dietary recalls. Research consistently shows that people tend to underreport their food intake by about 15 to 25%. Around 30% of people are classified as significant underreporters, and studies have found that the proportion of underreporters can range from 20% to over 60%, depending on the population studied. Quick example of this would be somebody reports eating 2,000 calories a day, and their actual intake might be closer to 2,300, 2,500 calories on average. And I can definitely say this, having worked as a nutritionist for a long time, a nutritional coach, worked in the fitness industry as a personal trainer. Until you get somebody to actually keep an accurate food diary and write down everything that they have had, and then you calculate it, more often than not, they are around 500 or over calories more than they think they are consuming a lot of the time, especially with fat loss clients. On the other hand, people will say they eat a lot of food. I eat so much food. I'm definitely hitting my calories. But this is a good lesson of, you never really know if you're just guesstimating. You really have to dial in, write down these things, be stringent, so you can learn more than anything. But some quick percentages just there. I'm glad I brought that up. So 15 to 25% under-reporting on average. So crazy amount when you think about it. It can be up to 60% depending on the population study. And this comes down a lot to food literacy. I was watching a YouTube video yesterday. A guy did the comparison between the most obese city in America and the most obese, overweight city in America against the fittest, or the least obese city in Japan. And the calorie differences, the eating habits, the food literacy, as in knowing what calories, what macronutrients are, just the basics of nutrition, was actually shocking. He stopped a few people in the street and asked them questions like, and I'm not trying to sound or try to make anybody feel like they are stupid, but maybe this helps you with not having to ask the question, or feel intimidated by asking the question. But he asked, which are very basic statistics and knowledge when it comes to nutrition, about calories in certain foods, and also calories per gram of our basic macronutrients. So he's asking things like, how many calories are in a gram of protein, for example? And people would say 1, or they'd say 15, they'd say heaps of different calories per gram. The answer is 4, by the way. But even that, people not knowing how many calories are in certain macronutrients, or our main macronutrients being fats, carbs, and proteins, and alcohol. If you're an alcohol consumer, you have to think of that too, which is 7. But basic calorie percentages or values of different foods is quite a concern when it comes to people knowing or being conscious or consciously being able to consume food and know they're staying on track with their health and fitness goals was a huge concern on that. And obviously, with this, very easy to over or underestimate your food. Went a bit long on that point, number 2, but I did want to cover it as helpful as possible. Number 3, this is very common, very huge with many of my clients and many people in general, even myself, definitely myself. I lack this at times and I understand that I'm going to lack it. It's not going to last and I can't rely on it to achieve my goals and continue to stay in a routine, and that is motivation. Motivation will never last. Motivation will come, it will go in spurts, it will climb up and down depending on the day, on the time, what else is going on in your life, how you feel. So many different factors come into how motivated you will be. It is very sporadic, and at the end of the day, it is a very weak fuel if you were trying to rely on it to, again, going back to point 1, to consistency, show up and get your exercise done, to consistently stick to your nutrition. Your motivation is very, very weak, so you can never rely on it. What is the biggest excuse, or one of the most common excuses for people not doing their workouts, getting to the gym or sticking to the nutrition? It is, I'm just not feeling motivated. I'm just not feeling motivated at the moment. And a lot of the time, it's not the motivation, it's the purpose for wanting to achieve what you want to achieve. It's having your why strong enough, so then even when the motivation isn't there, you're going to do it anyway. Not only that, it's having a plan. So when your motivation is at the lowest, you don't even have to think about it. You can almost just automatically get out of bed if you train in the morning, or you can get to the gym after work and you can just go through the motions at least consistently, whether your motivation is there or not, whether you're half asleep, whether you're having the worst day ever, you just broke up with your girlfriend or whatever it might be, your boyfriend. Motivation, you cannot rely on it. So just throw that out the window now, because motivation will get you nowhere when it comes to sticking to your goals consistently, like I just said. Different things can motivate you short term, of course. You might put on a YouTube video of people working out, or different bodies and people you aspire to be like might motivate you. Your favorite track list, another reason music is good in the gym or on the way to the gym, because it motivates you. These things, you can increase your motivation at different times with different methods, but overall, very unreliable. Number 4, and this almost touched on the point I was just talking about then, which is getting motivation from external influences, such as people you might idolize or want to take traits from. But comparison, especially when it comes to the aesthetics or the look or the physical aspects of our health and fitness goals, comparison is your worst enemy. This is number 4. If you are constantly comparing yourself to other people, you are never going to be satisfied. If your main goal is to have the exact body of somebody else, have the exact life of somebody else, you are going to fail every single time, because it is 99.99999% impossible to look exactly like somebody else, or even close to somebody else, because we are all genetically, biologically wired a certain way, and we can only achieve so much based on our capabilities and the things that we can do, our whole makeup of our body, our lifestyles. All these different things come into play. Got a really good example here. I've had so many new clients come to me for many, many years. They still do, saying, I want the body of so and so. I want to look like, I don't know, Tom Cruise. I want to look like, what's a really good one? I want to look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, for example. Now, that is probably not a good example because that is achievable for many people, but you're not going to look like Brad Pitt in his prime when it comes to your facial features or that superstardom kind of look that he has. You might be able to get a similar body type. You're definitely not going to look exactly the same. Or people with really unrealistic goals. They want to look like they want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Is a probably a good example there. They want to look like a bodybuilder, but not just the genetics, but the time, the discipline, even the steroids, all these different things and factors that came into what made Arnold Schwarzenegger the way he was is completely unachievable and impossible for the general population and for, like I said, 99.999% of people. So comparison will never help you achieve your goals. I accepted this a long time ago. I'm thankful because I had a real life experience with somebody else that I idolized telling me they wanted something that I had. When for me, I pretty much wanted their body to me, one of my really good friends, their body to me was the epitome of what I thought was the perfect body. I was like, oh, if I had a body like that, I'd be fully satisfied. I wouldn't have to do any more. I'd just get to that, maintain that, and I would be set for life. But I found out pretty quick, genetically, that wasn't going to happen. We trained at the same intensity, same time. I trained with this guy. I'm going to shout him out. People probably know him. If you don't, check him out on my Instagram. I did a podcast with him early on in this podcast with Lee Constantino. And he is a bodybuilding champion in all facets of what you would call a champion, both in personality and physique. He's won the biggest UK bodybuilding competitions. He's won competitions overseas now in Dubai. Did a competition last year and totally dominated. Crazy physique, works hard for it. Super tall. He's what you would call tall, dark, and handsome. He's pretty much the epitome of that. But we had a conversation in the gym when I used to train with him when I was living in London, thankfully. And he said, man, if I had abs like yours, oh man, you got the best abs. I want those abs. And I was thinking, this guy has what many would consider the perfect physique, and he still is not satisfied. By comparing his abdominals at the time with mine and saying he wanted my abdominal muscles, then that just put everything in perspective for me. It told me that comparison will always have a negative effect on you. If you start to compare yourself with external influences, with different people, whether it's in fitness, in health, or otherwise, you're going to make yourself unhappy. Now, I'm not saying you can't surpass these people or what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to get to a certain level of somebody else, that it's impossible. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you have to do it your way. You have to be the best version of yourself. This sounds super cliche, but you have to strive for nothing else other than being the best version of yourself, the fittest, the strongest, the healthiest, the smartest, the happiest, the wisest. All these things will come down to you striving to be your best self, and that's all you should be concentrating on. And I guarantee if you do that, you're going to be a lot happier in general day to day. You're going to be more satisfied when you accomplish things, and you're only going to keep improving, because once the project becomes you and it's you you're thinking of all the time, you can really control your actions. You can really control the results that you are aiming for based on your actions. Once you accept that, it makes everything so much easier, and you actually get excited because you see the results of your actions changing your body and changing your life, the things that you do. There's no better rewarding feeling than putting the blinders on and focusing on what you can achieve and getting the most out of the life that you have and the body that you have. Don't want to go too much further with that. I think I made the point. Number 5, and this goes back to consistency versus intensity. As I said, I would touch on this point a little bit more. And this is to forget about shortcuts and short-term goals. Now, I'm going to be more specific with this. So shortcuts if you're taking shortcuts to try and get to an end goal, if you reach it, you're not going to appreciate it, and you're not going to be able to sustain it long term either, because a shortcut teaches you none of the lessons, and it doesn't teach you how to value what you have accomplished. If you have cheated to get something, if you have just been handed something, you don't appreciate it as much. Not only that, like I said, you don't learn the lessons that it took to get there in order to maybe not fail when you do something again. You don't have the knowledge there to be able to apply those lessons to other facets of your life, to other things in your life. You mightn't be able to repeat it if it's got handed to you. For example, you don't appreciate things that are gifted to you compared to when you earn them. So if I use a monetary or a material type example, just to make it easier, if you got handed a Ferrari, yeah, you might appreciate it. You might be anyone's going to be super happy, or most people are going to be super happy if they and ecstatic if they got given a Ferrari, which is obviously unrealistic. But in comparison to putting in years of work and grind and time, blood, sweat, and tears in order to attain that Ferrari and buy it yourself, the satisfaction and the value you have and the appreciation you have for that Ferrari will far outweigh the feelings that you get from when you were just handed it out of the blue. You didn't work for it. You didn't get the lessons of putting in hard work in order to achieve something. You didn't go through the hardships of possibly maybe missing out on earning enough money to get this Ferrari, for example. Probably going a bit off track there, but what I'm trying to say is shortcuts won't continue to reward you. It won't continue to teach you. It won't continue to build resilience in you and work ethic if you're taking shortcuts or looking for shortcuts. Short-term goals, there is a time and place for them, but again, they're not sustainable either, because a short-term goal means you're going to get there faster. You're going to get to that goal, but then you can't envision where you want to go any further than that, which is why I talked about at the start with, 8-week challenges or fad diets or extreme diets and extreme exercise routines. You're not going to be able to sustain that long term. You might get to that short-term goal very quickly, but you haven't learned how to sustain it. You haven't learned how to pick yourself up when you fall down or you fail. You haven't worked out ways to overcome hardships. You haven't worked out ways, like the point goes at the start, to consistently show up for yourself no matter how you're feeling. Number 3, whether there's motivation or not. You don't get any of these lessons if you are taking shortcuts or just setting short-term goals where you can sustain it short-term, but it is not going to add to your overall longevity, sustainability, and quality of life long-term. This is more, all right, number 6, and then I've got a bit of a special one in here. I didn't really add it as the 7, but I will put it in. But number 6 for now is to stop relying on others in order to achieve your goals. Now, I can use the gym analogy pretty easy because a lot of people do this at the start. They'll join a gym with one of their friends and they'll start going for a few weeks. It all sounds well and good. Yeah, let's get fit together. Let's show up at this time, this day, every single day. And this could go back to short-term goals or taking shortcuts. But what happens when you're comfortable training with somebody else and you're basically relying on them? You see a lot of gym newbies or people new to the gym go with one of their friends who has a little bit of knowledge in the gym or has a lot of knowledge in the gym, and they're relying on them to set their programming for themselves. They're relying on this other person to show them how to exercise. They're relying on this person to make them feel comfortable in the gym, so they're not there alone and not feeling that nervousness because they're worried that people are going to be looking at them and judging them, and they're not sure what they're going to be doing. And then what happens when that person can't come to the gym with you anymore? What usually happens, we've all seen it happen many times before. I have seen the odd occasion where two people will start, the newbie will start with somebody else who has a little bit of knowledge or had the idea at the start to go to the gym. They drop off and the other person continues on, and that is amazing to see, of course. It's unbelievable. I love seeing that. But realistically, if the person you're relying on drops off, then guess what? Chances of you sticking to your exercise routine in the gym or sticking to your healthy habits are going to drop off quite quick because you've built a reliance and you've built an attachment externally to them, to you achieving your goals and making it easier for yourself. So you haven't gone through the trenches yourself. You haven't learned these things. You haven't built up the confidence to be able to push through when nobody is cheering you on, when nobody is there for you. And this is the same with, it goes back to the episode I did last week, and that was on, is your partner really sabotaging you and your health goals? If you were relying on your partner to not bring home unhealthy foods, to cook all your healthy meals for you, to go on walks with you, to support you, yes, a great partner does, but you can't rely on them 24/7 to motivate you, to do everything for you. What about the day they work late and they can't cook for you? What about the time they feel like an ice cream and you can't have one? We're very different. Yes, we should be able to support each other completely, for sure, but we're all human. We all have individual goals, needs, and wants. So if you're relying on somebody else in order to stay on track with your goals, in order to achieve your goals, then you are going to fail. That is the harsh reality. 99% of the time. I'll keep throwing that stat out there because this is how common it is. Relying on others. I could probably bring that up as well as part of, I guess, statistics on that. I'm going to look this up while I talk about an honorable mention, but this isn't in the 7 harsh truths that I want to discuss. But that is if you're not asking a lot of questions. People, for some reason, I guess I could have been like this years ago, are scared to ask questions about things they don't know. When, how else are you going to learn? If you're not asking questions about something you don't know, how the fuck are you going to learn? Like, realistically, really ask yourself that question. How am I going to know if I don't ask? And if I don't ask, what is the result of that? I still don't know. Isn't that more embarrassing? Isn't it more embarrassing to delay knowing something? It could be weeks, months, or years down the track because you were too scared to ask when you could simply ask a question and get the answer then and there, off most of the time off somebody who is more than willing to help you. Most people are flattered when you ask questions. It means you're putting faith in them, or you see them as somebody who can help them. Again, 99% of people are happy to help you if you have a question. Having a question can be a very flattering thing for people, knowing that somebody is putting their trust in that person to give them that information. Not everybody's going to have the right answers. This isn't the point there. Even if you get the information, you should be asking more questions. We have not just people these days to rely on. We have Google. We have ChatGPT. We have all these other avenues, or an unlimited amount, an infinite amount of information that we can access to get the right answers. So that's probably a little hint there too. Don't take somebody for face value all the time, even if they look reputable. Do your homework. Everything that I'm talking about today, I don't expect you to take it at face value. I'm doing it because I want you to go and access the information yourself and re-emphasize what I'm telling you. You might hear a certain topic, or I might give a throwaway comment, and you might be able to go in depth with that and get more information on it. I go very brief. I'm not trying to be super scientific, super complicated with my podcast and the information that I give, because I want it to be understandable for everybody. But I do encourage you to learn as much as possible, read as much as possible, question things that I say, question things that I think, question things that you think and say, and just go out there and learn as much as you can. So I'm going to quickly, as I wasn't while I was talking, I'm going to quickly find out What percentage of people rely on others to achieve their fitness goals? And what's the success rate? So this proves my point in another way also, actually, because it says here, a meta-analysis of weight loss interventions found that programs incorporating social support had a 29% higher adherence rate than those without social support. So that pretty much proves my point right there. What do you do when that 29% average leaves? AKA, what do you do when your social support or your friend or whoever it is you're relying on is no longer there? Chances are, percentages show, numbers don't lie, that you're most likely going to fall off the bandwagon yourself. All right, now let's get back to the last point, because I don't want these podcasts to go too long if they don't have to. So my special mention there was talking about asking a lot of questions. Definitely do that. Harsh truth is, you're probably not asking enough questions and you're scared to ask questions, which you shouldn't be if you want to learn. Number 7, I usually have 7 points because 7 is my lucky number. It seems to have a good amount of time to cover content and gives me enough points to get my main points across. And this might be a little bit harsh, it might be a little bit blunt. Like I said, it might be, but number 7 is most likely you're not achieving your goals, you're failing, you keep failing your fitness and health goals because you don't actually believe in yourself. You don't actually believe you can achieve your goals. And there's many reasons for that. The main one usually is because you can't actually see yourself or envision yourself living the life that you want to. You can't envision yourself having the body, the lifestyle, fitting into the clothes that you want to. You've never seen yourself that way. That's why it is so hard to believe that you can achieve something. And that's why I tell many of my clients, realistically, there's statistics out there also, which I'm not going to bring up, but I've read these many times. Commonly, it takes you about 3 times as long to see the results that other people will see in you when you start to make changes. I remember this happening to me many years ago when I thought that I wasn't really making much progress with my fat loss goals, my health goals. At one stage, I specifically remember walking into a friend's house. They hadn't seen me for probably 3 months at this stage, and this is probably going to align exactly with the time frame that I'm going to give you. It would have been 3 or 4 months I hadn't seen these friends for. I went to their house and I'd been working out for about 3 months. I was on my health kick for the first time ever, trying to lose weight, learning all about fitness and health. I was working out at home, doing the P90X program. If you don't know what P90X is, look that up. It's pretty intense, and it definitely got me some really good results. I would say it's pretty extreme though when you're starting out. I wouldn't recommend doing it if you were starting out because it is very extreme. Luckily for me, I am very resilient, very harsh on myself in a lot of ways. If I want to achieve something, I put my mind to it and I can do it. That has taken time and time again. Many times I've wanted to quit. I'm not saying I just naturally have it. I'm just gotten better and better. My willpower has gotten stronger. But at this time, I was working out about 3 months and I hadn't really, to be honest, seen many changes. I mean, I did feel my clothes changing a little bit. I was definitely getting through workouts a lot easier, feeling a lot fitter. I was getting a little bit stronger. But overall, I didn't really feel like I was making much progress because I hadn't really heard from anybody else anything really positive or anyone really noticing anything. And walked into this house and they're like, oh my God, you have lost so much weight. You're looking so healthy. What are you doing? And I was like, I was taken back. I was, I guess, in a bit of a state of shock. I was like, oh, so it's actually noticeable now. People are actually noticing the hard work that I'm putting in. They're seeing the results more than I could actually see. And sure enough, I hadn't even taken progress pictures up to this point, and I was 12 weeks into this program, pretty much finished a round of this P90X program. And sure enough, I took photos and I couldn't believe the difference. And the reason for this is, I'll go back to some numbers for you. It takes about 6 weeks for other people to see your results or see some changes in you, and it can take you up to 12 weeks to 16 weeks for yourself to see the same differences in your body, in your lifestyle, in your results. A lot of the reason being, we look at ourselves every single day in the mirror. If you're looking at yourself every single day in the mirror, you're not taking pictures or anything, you're not really tracking your progress, then you're not really going to see noticeable change, because we have a negative bias naturally towards ourselves. We look for imperfections. We look for things that scare us. We look for barriers. And a lot of the time, we are really good at talking negative about ourselves. Like, we might have crazy, amazing results, and we're still looking to improve, which is also a good thing. That is just wired into humans for some reason. We're addicted to evolution and moving forward and improvement, which is unbelievable, but it can be a detriment because it can cause this cycle of never being satisfied or never celebrating milestones or achievements when we make them or when we achieve them. So that is my last point there that I wanted to make, and hopefully, and a helpful point is, you have to believe in yourself. Chances are, if you keep giving up, you keep failing, look at these other points that I've covered, go back and listen to this, write them down if you need to, and face them front on and direct, and address these common things, these common harsh truths, and ask yourself, do you really believe that you can achieve this? Because if you don't 100% believe you can achieve something, then chances are you never will. I want to finish on a positive note, and that is that even if you don't believe in yourself, usually even a stranger will believe in you. Somebody is cheering you on right now that you probably don't even realize. Somebody is hoping that you achieve all your goals that you want to do, is rooting for you and cheering for you. A lot of the time it's strangers. A lot of the time it won't be immediate family or different things, but it might be a few years and someone might come up to you and you'll get a comment from somebody, "Oh, I've been following your journey for years. I've seen the amazing work you've been doing. Look how vibrant you are. Look how healthy you are now. Or look at all the things you've achieved in your career." These type of compliments that sometimes are hard to come by. Sometimes it's very hard for others to compliment other people. Also, in the environment that we are in these days, the very social, dominant, competitive environment that we are in the world today, it is hard sometimes to come by compliments. But you just have to believe in yourself as much as you believe in other people. I tell this to a lot of my clients also. What would you say to your best friend or your loved one if they said, I really want to try and achieve this goal? Would you believe in them? Would you encourage them? How would you talk to them? Or would you tell them that you believe in them? What would you actually say to that person in order to help them or encourage them to take the action? You need to start talking to yourself the same way. That's all I want to say. I'm going to leave you with that. I really hope you got something out of this episode. It resonated with you when I got the points across like I wanted to clearly. If you enjoyed this podcast, as always, don't forget to tag me. Share it on your Instagram story. Tag @GrantRobertsPT. Keep the feedback coming, and let's keep building up this podcast. And I do have some exciting things coming as we continue. Take care. See you in the next episode. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's podcast and found it helpful, share it on your Instagram story, and don't forget to tag me @GrantRobertsPT.